Renewable energy, including wind energy, is becoming increasingly more significant for the FDI sector and IDA Ireland client companies. Renewable energy is an important part of Ireland's value proposition for energy-based and energy-intensive FDI. And IDA would like to acknowledge the role of wind farms in supporting that investment. And it's a role that will become more significant in the future. In my presentation, I'm going to say a little bit about IDA Ireland at the start, a little bit about the FDI sector, and then talk about, in more depth, how renewable energy is becoming increasingly relevant to FDI companies. Because data centres use a lot of energy, I'm going to talk about the data centre sector and the prospects are good there. Then I will say a little bit at the end about corporate PPA'S before summing up. Firstly, in relation to IDA Ireland, most of you are aware of who we are and what we do. It's all about job creation. It's about sustainable job creation, creating jobs that will last for many, many years. And in doing that, we work closely with the multinational companies to create and win new FDI investments. We focus on getting those investments into Ireland, number one, and then we place heavy responsibility on trying to get those investments into the regions. And it's a tough job because we compete internationally with many competitors, the likes of the UK, the Netherlands, the Nordics for data centre investment. It's a tough competitive game, but we have been very successful at it. And it's a Team Ireland approach. It's about working with the universities, the institutes of technology, to ensure that the right skills are in place, working with organisations like EirGrid, SEAI, to ensure that the energy infrastructure is right for investments. You know, we're a government body, about 350 people. We have about 20 offices globally, 7 or 8 here in Ireland, but increasingly more offices in Asia Pacific, China and India. We don't go after all business. We're strategically focused. We're strategically focused in about 6 areas. Information technology, which is an area I worked in myself up until earlier this year. Life sciences is another big area, and that includes medical technologies, which is very, very big and important here in Galway. Then we have digital content, consumer and business services, and that area includes companies such as Google, Facebook and LinkedIn. We have industrial, engineering, and finally we have international financial services. And we target those sectors for global business services, whether that's inside sales operations, whether it's financial shared services operations, or whether it's multilingual customer support operations. We chase high-value manufacturing from various companies. And from all of our companies and targets, we work with them to get in place research, development and innovation projects. But we're also looking at new forms of FDI, and as part of our existing strategy, we're focused on new areas, which include the marine, infrastructure and property, agricultural technology, arts and culture and sport, and also energy services, which includes smart technologies, data analytics, energy efficiency, and carbon management solutions. Just to say a little bit about the FDI sector here in Ireland, there are about 210,000 people directly employed in IDA client companies, of which there are over 1,400 at this stage. If you take into account associated employment, and we generally use a multiplier number of 1.8, then you're looking at about 380,000 people employed in the FDI sector between direct and indirect employment. And these companies would be contributing about 18 billion annually in expenditure in the Irish economy. And of that, about 11 billion would be in salaries. And then you look at exports in the region of about 170 billion. On the right there are some logos of the main company or some of the companies, such as Amazon.com, a company with about 2,500 people employed in this country, plus they announced a further 1,000 jobs there last June, have data centres in Dublin and also a customer support operation in Cork. You've Google there, probably 6,000 people employed, most of those in Dublin in their EMEA headquarters, and then you have the likes of Microsoft and Facebook and other companies. And why are these companies coming here to Ireland? They're coming for various reasons. Number one, our track record. The success of one company in turn brings on other companies. Google came in here about 2003 and was followed by Facebook and LinkedIn around 2008, 2009, and since then you have Twitter and companies like Dropbox coming in. Talent, very important. We have a very good educational system, and talent is a primary factor in influencing investment. Our low corporate tax rate of 12.5% is important as well, as is Ireland's, the ease of doing business in Ireland. Ireland is viewed favourably. The fact that we're part of Europe is important, and part of the euro. It is an influencing factor, as indeed the very good research that is available and taking place in our research institutes in the universities and institutes of technology. It's an influence factor, as is our clusters. You know, we have a medical technology cluster here in Galway. It's one of the largest in the world. That in turn attracts in more and more medical technology investment. And finally, competitiveness is always a consideration. And while we don't compete for the low-cost investments like we did in the past, competitiveness is an important consideration. And if you look at a comparison of electricity prices across Europe, and you look at non-household prices, you look at Ireland here in the centre, we're roughly around the euro area, but we're cheaper than Germany and Italy, and this is data from Eurostat in 2017, but we're more expensive than Sweden, Finland, and the Netherlands, and Denmark. And these are countries that we compete for data centre investment. If you look at the US, and it's not on the table, but I make reference to it at the end of the slide, we compete for manufacturing projects with the US, such as pharmaceutical or biopharmaceutical manufacturing projects, but their costs are much, much less than in Ireland. So cost is important. Renewable energy is becoming increasingly important to FDI companies. We can see that in our discussions with companies when we talk to them about new investment projects. It is something which they talk to us about. Can we get renewable energy? And many of those companies that we're talking to have made a strategic commitment to be 100% renewable. And that's evident if, for instance, you look at the RE100. Apple, 100% renewable in 43 countries since last April. Citi and Coca-Cola have a target to be 100% renewable by 2020. And other companies as well are in that RE100. And these are companies which have significant operations in Ireland and are continuing to invest. Companies like SAP, which is an operation here in Galway, Workday, or indeed eBay. And they're influenced by corporate investors and their employees who are increasingly advocating greater action on decarbonisation. If you look at FDI operations in Ireland and look at some of the companies that are here, Intel is one of the largest voluntary private purchasers of renewable sources. 100% of their electricity supplied came from renewable energy in 2016. If you look at Microsoft, in last October, they announced that they had agreed to buy all of their electricity over the next 15 years from a wind farm down in County Kerry. And this electricity will be used for their data center-based and cloud computing services, and surplus electricity will be sold then to the country's power grid. Facebook's own new HQ in Dublin is using 100% renewable energy, and they're to use 100% renewable energy at their new data center in Clonee, and that will be supplied by Brookfield Renewable. And with the various FDI companies, you have different energy initiatives taking place. IDA Ireland has a Go Green offer, which we launched earlier this summer. And this is a financial support program that assists FDI companies to adopt green business principles, drive environmental efficiencies, and improve sustainability. And indeed, there's feasibility study support to look at new renewable technologies. SEI's large industry network is an energy efficiency network of 200 companies with annual energy bills in excess of 1 million. And SEI works with those companies to improve efficiencies within their operations. And in 2016, they reduced their energy bills by 17.5 million and almost 158,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide. And that large industry network includes large companies such as Abbott, Stryker, Google, Analog Devices, and MSD. I mentioned at the start about data centers and how data centers are big energy consumers, and developments in the data center sector will influence the demand for electricity. So I think it would be good to reflect and talk about the prospects for the data center industry and what we are seeing in the marketplace. Earlier this year, we commissioned a study which was undertaken by Grant Thornton to look at the economic benefits of data center investment in Ireland. And this was a study based on a survey of data centers and stakeholders. And if you look at the reasons why companies are investing and the data centers are investing here in Ireland, they're investing for various reasons. These include the climate. Our cool climate means that there isn't as much cooling needed to be done in the data centers compared to if, for instance, companies were to set up operations in countries such as Spain or Italy. We have an advanced infrastructure in power and telecommunications. And again, we're part of the EU market. And that's very important for companies that are investing here, data center companies, that we're part of the EU. And that's important from a data protection perspective. We have the required skills, and also renewable energy is available. Ireland is viewed as having a secure, reliable and sustainable source, and this is one of the outputs of the study during the summer. Data centres have a clear requirement that energy should be from a renewable source. The report mentions about Google, the world's largest renewable power customer, purchasing 3 gigawatts, equivalent to 50% of its power requirements. It mentions about Amazon being the second largest purchaser of renewable energy, and they having a long-term commitment to being 100% renewable energy powered. And these are big companies here in Ireland. If you look at the prospects for data centre investment, all data centre survey respondents said that they were undertaking investments in renewables. 77% said they were investing in 2 or more initiatives. 85% were investing in power from renewable sources, with a further 15% generating renewable energy on site. The report mentions about how data centres are willing to pay a premium for guaranteed traceable renewable energy. With respect to the economic impact, which was the primary purpose of the study, since 2010, an economic contribution of over 7 billion was contributed by data centres. And you're looking at about 5,700 employees on a full-time equivalent basis being employed annually. The study then looked at the future investment prospects. It looked at future investment prospects over the next 5 years and then over the next 10 years. And it mentions about a significant pipeline of proposed data centre projects over the next 5 years. And we can see that ourselves in discussions with various investors or potential investors. There is interest there. There's potential to double investment from what has been seen to date. 85% of those surveyed were positive, 15% were neutral. So why were they positive? Again, our physical locations, such as our cool weather, as I mentioned earlier, US proximity, because a lot of that data center investment is coming from the US. The fact that we're English speaking in the EU was a factor. And we can see what's happening. Cloud computing is becoming more and more important. It's all being located in data centers. So there's big demand there, and that's reflected in customers' own company plans. Geopolitically, Ireland is a safe and secure place. And then you have the favourable factors of production, which include skills and energy availability. If you look at the future investment prospects over the next decade, 62% of respondents were planning to increase investment because of increasing customer demand, because they need to upgrade their existing facilities, and because of the Brexit impact. 31% were talking about maintaining investment, 8% said they saw themselves perhaps reducing investment. And again, when you look at the maintaining and the reducing of investment, that was because of a concern that maybe Ireland may not be able to provide sufficient energy that would be needed to set up operations. With respect to corporate PPA'S, they're certainly important to the FDI client base. We can see that when we're talking to companies. They're definitely grown in popularity, and I think Giles made reference to that with respect to Europe, and definitely they're very strong in the US. And there are just some examples of companies that have concluded PPA'S in the US in 2017. Corporate PPA'S we see as having a role to play in Ireland. So to sum up on the relationship between renewable energy and FDI, there is a very close relationship. It's grown, renewable energy, including wind energy, is growing in importance in the FDI sector. Wind-generated electricity has a significant role to play in supporting new FDI. Demand for renewable energy is expected to continue growing and driven by strong demand from the data center sector. The outlook for the data center sector is positive in as far as we can see ahead. There are always risk factors when you're looking ahead to future investment. If there's an economic downturn, what could the impact of President Trump's protectionism policies, his imposition of tariffs, Brexit? There are always factors like that. But in as far as we can see ahead, in as far as we're talking to companies, there's positivity and there's confidence there at this point in time. Corporate PPA'S have a place in supporting investment, and competitiveness will always be a consideration. When we're talking to companies, competitive is important. And finally, wind-generated electricity is an important element of Ireland's value proposition for energy-based and energy-intensive FDI. Thank you.